Deze doet het. Dan ook deze. Soundcheck, soundcheck. Alright. Okay. Let's go.
Okay. How did you start your journey in Wing Chun, and what keeps you inspired to practice and teach it?
Well, I at the moment am not teaching it, but how I started was very interesting. First of all, I started in Nunchakudo, so this the sparring kumite version. And actually, let me explain you why I started martial arts. And back in the days, I grew up in a very, very rough neighborhood. And being shorter than everybody else, there was this boy, Badradin, let me name him. And he was a bully. He tried to push me in front of the tram. We were waiting for the tram to go from school to home. And of course, this tram, let me make it shorter. I started because out of revenge. When I was really young, I got bullied by a boy called Badradin. And he, just for the fun, he tried to push me in front of the tram. And at that moment, I don't know what had happened to me. I had this kamikaze feeling, so I grabbed him and I pulled him with me. But because he was really big, fat, and strong, he pulled me out because he didn't wanna go. And that experience in me was such a humiliation that I decided to really take revenge. And in the beginning, because I thought, I'm so small and short, how can I win? So I took on Nunchakudo, it's 2 sticks, the kumite version, the sparring version. And the motivation came from there. It came from wanted never to feel that humiliation again, never wanting to feel helpless again. And that kept me burning for many, many years. I was 3 times state champion. I became champion really fast. From the weakest boy in class, I became the strongest just by sheer hard work. And because I didn't feel that I could grow in Nunchakudo, I started something else, and I started to search for something that could allow me a great chance to win. I tried taekwondo, I tried karate, I tried kickboxing. And all those sports, when I held the pad, the other guy kicked, I was just flying. There was no chance. And then I had a friend who did Wing Chun, and that was quite kind of a smart way of fighting. And he was himself was not a big buff guy. He was more a nerdy guy with glasses on like me. And he was really, really fast and really, really efficient. And I thought, okay, this might be the thing. This is my go-to thing that I can have a chance to win in a fight. And it proved me right. I've been training Wing Chun. Back then I was quite a fanatic. I trained 14 years, 14. Nearly 5-6 times a week. So it started at 1 time a week, and then it ended up to 5, 6, and sometimes 7 times. I was really, really focused and dedicated. So the inspiration, the spark was just, I wanted to fight the bullies. I wanted to just really do bad stuff with them for doing bad stuff with me. I wanted to stop the humiliation. So actually I turned the negative into positive. It's actually pain that kept me going. Pain that kept me going, taking more pain, because in the Wing Chun classes that I took, it was a lot of sparring. Back with the Rob Vogel in the beginning, later with Frank Schaefer, he was tough on us, and that ended up with Wong Shun Leung. And with Wong Shun Leung, that was bare knuckle, but not really in the face. It was rather on the chest, always on center point. Yet, I'm way smaller than everybody, and Wong Shun Leung's style was so more efficient and so much smarter actually, and better than any other Wing Chun style I've tried out. So I had to suffer a lot of pain in order not to have pain. Um, so yeah, it's the negative energy that kept me going in a positive direction.
Did you study any martial arts styles prior to Ving Tsun?
Yes, I told you. I studied martial arts, Nunchakudo first, became a 3 times state champion. That's when I thought, okay, I've seen it all, done it all, became better than my teachers, and I tried to find a better way of fighting, open hand, without any tools or weapons, and that's how I came across Wing Chun, which is, to me, gave me the best leverage, the best chance to win, because I'm much shorter, I'm much lighter than anybody else. Due to the efficiency, gave me a lot of happiness through the toughness.
How did you come to meet Sifu Wong Shun Leung?
Sifu, I met Sifu. In that time, I was training under Frank Schaefer in Amsterdam. And I got a phone call from my old teacher, Rob Vogel, from the Wing Chun Association in The Hague. He said, I have this guy, can you translate for me? And yeah, the first moment that I met him was in a shabby hotel near the beach. And the weird part was, although I never met the man before, to me, he felt like a father to me, like a split second. The way we greet each other, the way we joked each other. And I went home. I really remember I went home because back then we didn't have GPS and all those fancy things we have now. We just have an old rinky-dinky car. I lost my way home. I was just lost in thoughts, in over thinking in hindsight what you've said, besides telling me total new insights on fighting. He also gave me that sense that a great warm father figure could give you. So in short, I was hired as a translator. We connected very well, just sometimes through sheer luck and energy. Simo, his wife, said, because you are very alike, not only physically, because Sifu was also quite a short guy, but also mentally. We had the same kind of banter. We have the same kind of fast wit. And yeah, the wit and banter and the mutual way of thinking and seeing life through the same lens.
How has your practice of Wing Tsun evolved over the years?
My practice in Wing Chun evolved first by the Wing Chun Association in The Hague by Rob Vogel, senior and later junior, which had a lot of emphasis on sparring with gloves, with tiny karate gloves, which was great. I mean, it gave me more confidence in conflict. It gave me a sense of an awareness of timing and how to continue whilst you being punched, because you start as a beginner and you're actually a living punching bag, a moving target. That's how you grow in the years, and with that, I also learned hardening. We had those Sunday trainings for the seniors, where you did the hardening of the legs and the arms, where you just stick your leg out and allow the other to do low kicks on it. Me being just 50 kilos, needless to say, I was in agonizing pain. And the other guys, Netherlands have the tallest people in the world. Also, the heaviest. All the big K1 fighters are from the Netherlands. They're big guys. So I learned I learned to eat humble cookies. So, and I ate a lot of them, and it was good for me. It brought you back to reality. Pain is a good teacher. And yeah, pain I had every Sunday. I came home bruised. But back then, I was young, had a lot of adrenaline, had a lot of will to fight, to win from fights. So back then, all the bruises and injuries we all had, we were proud of them, and we showed off. You're such a weakling. You don't even. It's it's blue. In me, it's black. So so we're super proud of that. What was the question? Because I'm drifting off. Oh yeah, at the start of the journey. So the journey started at the association with Rob Vogel, junior and senior. Later I moved on to Frank Schaefer in Amsterdam, who had the Leung Ting style, which was actually more closer to the Hong Kong style. And then I got invited as a translator for Wong Shun Leung, who later became my sifu. And that was for me the end station. The clarity of his. Every question was a no BS answer. It was straight to the point, and there was no magic to it, and it was logical. Like Einstein says, everybody can make things more complex, but it takes a genius to make it simple. And every one of his answers was simple. And it was sometimes unsatisfying simple, because I was so used to mumbo jumbo sometimes, that there is magic if you do this and that, and then all of a sudden rainbows come out. It's not. Life is simple. The shortest distance between 2 points is still the straight line. And in order to be successful, it still depends on kung fu, which means hard work. And there is no shortcuts in success. A lot of people in the West, and also with other schools that have tried in Wing Chun, they came up with, if you do this, then you get longer, you get some stronger. No, it's not. It's just repetition, and more repetition. And it's strengthening, it's hardening. Yes, you might be able to punch and hit, but then if you're not trained enough, you break your wrist. So those kind of like simple, foundational, basic, to the point things that were super realistic gave me, enlightened me to what was really realistic. Because back in the sparring time, so all the teachers I thought, this is enlightenment, and then with Sifu, like, oh wow, okay, so this is how things really work. Just simple logic. 1 + 1 is always 2, and nothing else.
What type of person was Sifu Wong Shun Leung, both as a teacher and individual?
Sifu was always funny. He always managed to throw in 1 or 2 jokes. I know that for a while there was a meme going on with me as a translator and Sifu translating the joke of somebody asking, the logo of Wing Chun is of a crane and a snake, and the crane grabbing the snake. So is it snake style mixed with the white crane style? And Sifu intelligently answered, well, look, a crane can fly and can do things you cannot do. Although you do have parts that look like a snake, but you shouldn't fight with it. I cracked. I don't know if somebody still has that video, but I cracked. I didn't translate it very correctly, but the basic gist was that. And there were gazillions of those jokes continuously. And his way of teaching was this way, was in a very light-hearted way. And because it's light-hearted, you pay more attention. And because he was so highly intelligent, he was able to make it simple, but not simpler, not too simple, but as simple as it can get. So it became very logical. And so therefore, most of his students become very, back in the days in Hong Kong, very great fighters and very respected fighters. So Sifu was a man that loved to laugh, a man that loved life, a man that stuck to honor and stood up for each and every one of his students. So I remember at the funeral, there were some things with certain students coming from the West, and they just came. They have studied under Sifu only 2 weeks, for example. But I do remember Sifu telling me quite a few times while he was joking around playing his cards, because Sifu always sat and played cards and watched. This is also a Sifu thing. You think he's not watching and he's playing his card game, and he just shouts and he's not looking at you, probably because hearing at you. You're losing this, or you're off that. And he was not watching. I thought I was safe, but he was. Somehow always paid attention, and he just knew where you need some help. And then he turned around and, hey, it's better if you do the and then the. Okay, good. Keep on training. Oh, by the way, his mantra was, if you're tired, if you're dead, you can rest as long as you want. So train. Go ahead. And you felt guilty. He also had his way to make you feel like a Dumbo. So you kept like, okay, you're right, Sifu. I'm a lazy bug. So as a teacher, he stood up for everybody. And back at that moment in the funeral, I think Simo, the wife of Sifu, came to me and said, hey, did Sifu accepted him as a student? Can we consider him a student? Because if he is, he gets to wear the white belt of a first line student. And there were some Europeans that were fighting amongst each other and saying, no, you are not deserving it. So another Chinese guy came to pull it off, and that guy got really upset. And then they came and then they asked me, what do you think? And my answer is the answer of Sifu. Sifu always said, if you trained under my guidance and I accepted you as a student, you're a student. Maybe you're a 1 week student, but you're still a student, although you're a 1 week student. So, needless to say, I shared this story that I, as a translator, remembered, and the two guys got their white scarf back. One of them you will know. I don't want to name names. So Sifu was a man that kept his word, and it showed in everything. I was really clear of that. And he was also a lot about honor and respect, especially giving. And because he gave so much honor and respect to everybody, you get it back tenfold. So he was a man that never demanded respect. And Sifu also was in this mode of, I never wanted to be a Sifu. What is a Sifu? He never gave weight to that. It was for him like, I actually wanted to fight. And I had nobody to fight. And I needed better fighters around me, so I could go outside and fight. So he grabbed a bunch of friends that were very, very dedicated. No, this is not what he told me. What he told me, he grabbed a bunch of his brother's friends who were training for the Olympic swimming. And those guys were very strong, both in cardio and with the arms. And just a strong guys with long muscle. That's what he told me. So he grabbed a bunch of swimmers from the Olympic team in Hong Kong, where his brother was a swimmer, and he started to train them. So he could have sparring partners, he could have chi sao partners. So he teach them chi sao. And he told me also, I really don't give a damn to be this well-praised Sifu. All I wanted to do is become a better fighter. So the first students that he had, he'd never trained them like, oh, I love you so, and you gave me money, so that therefore I have to teach you something. He just wanted to become the best of the best, so he could become better. So I'm drifting off, but let me do drift off, because I'm not sure if anybody told these stories. Sifu also evolved as a teacher. So the first group were swimmers, and he wanted to have sparring partners. So with the first group, and those people, some of them are still alive, they had really strong waist. Their waist, so in Wing Chun, the theories, the waist is much bigger than any other part of your body. So if you use your waist as the base of power, giving and receiving and blocking and deflecting, you're much stronger than your opponent. And also with passing distance, and also getting away from this by using your waist instead of your feet. So the first group were really strong in that, and they were really strong in just a few things. There's always this 80-20 rule, Pareto's law. 20% of the things you learn, you use 80% of the time. You can give an example in your clothing. 20% of the shoes you own, you wear 80% of the time. 20% of the clothes you usually own, you wear 80% of the time. Also, this goes for Wing Chun. 20% of the techniques that you will, not just 20% that you use 80% of the time. And I will come later to it, also in Biuji and Chamkyu and the weapon forms. Having that said, the first group of Sifu students just were very strong in the waist and had a good punch. And a punch and whatever deflection there is, just a punch and a deflection. We all know the techniques. And the chain punch, anything was solid and strong and didn't went through the opponent, went through the wall behind your opponent. So that was their mark. And so therefore every punch, every hit counts and like heavy. So that was his first group of students. And to him, those were the heavyweights in his opinion. And the more students came for guidance as a school, and he's really established a more commercial establishment, people started to demand stuff. Like, hey, standing here in Silim Tao, like my Siheng Barry Lee, who trained me many years, both actually private and also semi-private, he stood in the Silim Tao for months on end, just the Silim Tao. No, actually just standing until he couldn't stand. So his stance was really solid. And your footwork is actually everything, more than the hands work. And later, if you see the students at the most end of of Sifu's life, they become more in the hands, and they were very flashy. But you could clearly see that it had less power behind it. It has less effect behind it. It was flashy though, and it looked good and it felt good because you hit. You see, I hit, but there was not really that old-fashioned knockout power behind every hit and every grab. So that was the natural evolvement, because people were less patient also. Sifu also said, if I will give the old ways of letting you stand for 3 months and then 8 hours a day, people just run off. I will have 1 or 2 crazy fighters, and that's no way to pay the rent. And also the students really demanded it, especially the overseas students who came for a very short while. They came with the cameras and wanted to learn as much as possible in a very short time. You can't make grass grow faster by pulling on it. So that's my 2 cents. Did I answer that question, by the way?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, clearly.
Let's go.
How did you become a translator for Sifu Wong Shun Leung at his seminars? And could you tell us about that experience, and do any particular memories stand out from the time?
I got invited by Rob Vogel Sr. of the Wing Chun Association in the Netherlands to be a translator. The very first time I told you, we met at a very shabby beach hotel where Sifu was holding a seminar for somebody else. I think it must be Gert-Jan Ketelaar, Philip Bayer, or Ernst Höfler. Sifu was doing a little tour to Europe. And I was invited to translate. Barry Lee was there, Choi Shun Tin was there, and Sifu. And somehow I magnetically was drawn to Sifu. And it was vice versa. I think it was a 2-day meeting, if I'm correct, because I remembered another day that I brought cookies, but I might, it was so long ago, I might mixing up timelines. He's just such a funny guy. He's such a warm guy to be with. He's really the bonus father that you can have, a guidance through life. He was also very wise, but his wisdom, he has the magic to wrap a bitter medicine pill that you need into the finest, sweetest chocolate you want. So I think that made him a great teacher, because he was great in storytelling, so you can remember it. And he was a great fighter himself. And that's also an emphasis, something that I really learned from him. They are good fighters. He had great fighters, but they are lousy teachers. And some people are great teachers amongst them, but they're not so good fighters, or no good fighters. They are more like the PhD kind of guy. They were more intellectually, and they understood it intellectually, but they couldn't do it themselves. That doesn't mean, by the way, that if you can't do it yourself, that you can't create a good fighter. Not all good football coaches can play football. So he had the magic of explaining things very clearly, concisely, with great storytelling that you can remember it. He has also great empathy to everybody, so he could really read your mind, and therefore explain it in a way that you will grasp it forever.
Can you break down the purpose of Shun Leung Tao and why it's considered foundational?
I think there are many other teachers that can explain Shun Leung Tao 10 times better than me. One of the students of Sifu is called David Peterson. He's a great explainer. So in order to add something for you, a story that Sifu told me during my days of translating and also learning from him in Hong Kong, was this story that if you do your Shun Leung Tao with a lot of dedication, you will become much better in fighting than somebody that comes in for 2-3 weeks, videotapes all the forms and then go back home to practice. Those who do not practice the other forms, but practice Silim Tao delicately, but in the way that it was done back in the old days, 6-7 hours. So the first week or two, Sifu explained me, he just stood there, just stand until he couldn't stand. Take a short break, go stand there again. Sifu wouldn't talk to you. As he Yipman, he wouldn't talk to you. You're a beginner. You just stand. You're not worth my time yet. You have not proven yourself yet that you're worth it to be taught. But all those who've done that, who went through that hardship, also besides getting mental strength, which you need in a fight because you're gonna get hurt, you got also the physical strength. That is kind of like magical, you could say. Don't get me wrong on the word. There is no magic or hoo-ha or rainbows, but you just got so much stronger. You got so much more agility. You're so much more solid if you just do the foundation. And that's where somebody that Sifu was one of the first that gave me, it planted the seed in me that in order to build tall buildings, you have to have a great, strong foundation. Otherwise, property will collapse sooner or later. So, Silim Tao, therefore, is the foundation, and the foundation is the most important. If you don't have a great stance, a great foundation, you become very fluffy. It is fancy, it looks good, great for camera, great for YouTube, but don't take it in the ring because you're gonna get knocked out in, for sure, the first round. Only when you can deliver something solid, you can deflect and attack solid. So Silim Tao, the most important form, and actually the only form that you really have to repeat every day in order to maintain the highest chance of winning a fight.
What are the core lessons of Chapkyu and how does it build up Silim Tao?
Also with this question, I think both the videos that I've sent it out on YouTube that I shared and now it's copied worldwide, Sifu is explaining it word by word. I don't want to cross the words of Sifu. I don't think that I am somebody that can explain it better than Sifu did. A great translator, for example, is David Peterson. He translated and he done a lot of work into it. So in order to answer the question like I know it, I don't think I know it. I think Sifu knew it. And some of my seeings, like Barry Lee, who trained me, I'm very thankful for him. He took guidance on me after the passing of Sifu. And I feel very, very sentimental because he's one of the guys that really understood it thoroughly. So I actually, instead of answering and coming up with my theories on Chamkyu, I rather refer to the tapes. However, I do want to share the emphasis if you do anything on top of the Silim Tao, Chamkyu, Biuji, and you all know the theories for that there is nothing that can proceed, it can be better than a lot of training under guidance of one of the most senior students. Try that. That's my advice to everybody. Because you can be a great YouTube teacher. Well, a YouTube teacher, because later I became a professional theater dancer. People can watch things from YouTube and they can see the outside. They can see the result, but they don't feel the inside. I can't explain the feeling that I have once I know that I have center. When I just sit in the chair and I feel, okay, I have center now. This is something that I can feel because I've trained so many hours in training the center, stepping forward, backward, with an opponent in Danchi and in stepping in to train that reflex. Oh, what is reflex, for example? I can only, I can't even feel it. Reflex I can't feel, it's just a reflex. And how did I do it? That I can tell. I trained bloody hard, like minimum 10,000 hours, continuously under the guidance of a very senior person. Nowadays, also with this YouTube video, which I'm doing now with this interview, a lot of people grab that information and turn it into scripture, chalk it into marble and stone. I hope people won't do that. I hope people will use their senses and try to search out for the most senior students that did do the work. Those who done the work are the only ones that can share you the work. Because in theory it's nice, and in theory it's fun. But the practice, I only see very few people that still have that Wing Chun trained so deeply that it is very, very, very strong. That is that's what I'm seeing. So that's my only two things that I could share, that I feel that I could add to Cham Kyu knowledge.
How does Buji differs from the first two forms, and what advanced concept does it introduce?
Also in Buji, I think I should refer to my Sihings. Those things are not my place to answer.
Can you explain the centerline theory and what it's so essential, and why it's so essential in Wing Chun?
Well, everybody knows the center. If those who train centerline know centerline theory, and the centerline theory is not unique to Wing Chun. All professional martial arts forms know the centerline. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. The unique way of Wing Chun is that we use elbow in to punch, rather than coming from the side to inside, which is a diagonal line, which is always longer than from center to center. So those who train 10,000 punches from center to center, using your center, by the way, which don't forget, is always faster than somebody that takes a diagonal line. Actually, that was not what I wanted to say. Can you ask me again? Because
can you explain the centerline theory and why it's so essential in Wing Chun?
What I see happening is that because a lot of people haven't trained in the old ways, they punch through the center, but they miss that energy behind of it. So besides the centerline theory that everybody has, the triangle, the third line, I would really emphasize and hope you guys all will train that you use your hip, your waist behind of it, and it's not in a throwing way like in boxing, but it really comes from your center. You create the center line, which is the strongest force, and that comes from doing Qisao. But a lot of people want to win in Qisao, therefore the hand goes and therefore the upper body goes, and therefore you lose your waist. So I would really highly encourage people, because nowadays we live in the world of TikTok and Instagram, where we want instant gratification, where we want to win. I hit him, I touched him. And what I would like to emphasize and hope to share for everybody, if you can let that winning go and focus on training, how can I generate maximum strength from my center without anything up? That will give you so much. That's something that what I want to refer to. You can't see that on a video. You can grasp a little bit, but you can't fully understand it. But you have to really feel it coming, that you have it coming from the ground. And I see a lot of people, okay, then I'll lean back and that's not it. And it looks also, this is a very important part, it looks different on every person. And by just looking at the person or hearing the theory coming from me, won't give it to you, won't make the cut. So therefore, I highly recommend you to find the seniors that done the work, that actually can feel it themselves, that where it's coming from, and then work with them, and hopefully their knowledge rubs off on you. That's my view. Am I still in frame?
Yes, you are.
I got it right. So, yeah, that's my few points. Am I still in frame? Okay.
What is the significance of the economy of movement concept, and how does it apply fighting? Sorry. What role does simplicity play in Wing Chun, and how do you help students grasp this principle?
Simplicity is everything. Like Albert Einstein said, every fool can make things more complex, but it takes a genius to make things simple. So the simpler it gets, the more useful it gets. Not to bash on all the kung fu styles, but the more fancy stuff you have, you can see in the ring it doesn't work. And in the ring it's quite sober. Punch, block, or kick. That's the way. There's no other way. And all this fancy stuff, turning around, flipping around, especially on the streets, because Wing Chun was not made for ring. It was made for defending yourself in a very hostile situation. The Asians, all the martial arts forms that became famous came from Asia. So clearly the Asians were quite a feisty bunch of people back then. So on the streets, it's just real quick in and out. And if you're quick in and out, it's just punch, run, have a good cardio, run fast. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a big believer in all that fancy stuff. And also the few fights that I got in, it was just about punching. There was not. So the efficiency in Wing Chun, always going